All right, we are live. Hello, hello, hello. I welcome everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. It's great to see everyone here tonight. Well, tonight for me, whatever it is, in any part of the world that you're at, I appreciate seeing you guys. I see Vanessa here from Texas. Hi, Vanessa. Good to see you. Of course, Mr. Jason from New Jersey, Mr. Jason Berger. Good to see you. Uh, who else do we have on here? I see Lydia. Welcome. Getting ready, she says. Lydia, where you from? Put that in the chat. I'd love to hear where you guys are from. Love seeing you guys joining here for this lovely weekend. I hope you guys are having a great weekend. Susan, I see you out there. Welcome, welcome. I'm kind of waiting for everybody to log in here. Good to see. Oh, we got Queen Davis from Ohio. How's Ohio? The Midwest. The Midwest. The Midwest, even though they're on Eastern time. How does that work? Midwest means middle of the country, right? But yet they're on East Coast time, which is the eastern half of the country. Kind of confused by that, but they know how that works. All right, Arizona in the house. I see you out there. Denver, welcome, welcome. I want to pronounce your name, but I'm afraid I'm going to mispronounce it. Orlando's here. Welcome, everybody. Well, I'm excited to be with you guys. I had a special guest lined up, and he's reached out to me, production delays. So I do apologize. I do have that guest being delayed, and we are going to try to get him on here as soon as possible, but he may not be able to make it today. So if he's not able to make it today, then we will get him rescheduled in the very near future. But in the meantime, I have another guest with me that's arrived and here tonight. And as usual, we are going to solve all the world's problems tonight. So I hope you guys are ready for that. Buckle up, get out your pens, get out your pads, and stay tuned to the very end. I always recommend that you watch all the way through, because this is going to be a life-changing broadcast. And why is that going to be life-changing? Because we are here to solve all the world's problems. So you have to stay tuned to the end to know how we do that. But yes, Vanessa says she's ready. Well, very good. Well, I'm going to go ahead and bring on my guest here. Let's see who I have. Drum roll, everyone. Ready? There we are. Hello, hello.
Hello, how's it going?
It is the one, the only, Mr. Gerard. Welcome, welcome.
Hello,
So
hello.
Gerard, welcome. Thank you for joining me tonight. I
Yeah,
appreciate you
thanks for
being here.
having me. Of
I,
course.
I may cut you short because I have another guest that is currently in the process of trying to get online with us, but
For sure.
he may interrupt you. So we only
I like
have you. Maybe not. Maybe you'll be here the whole time. So either way,
we'll
but
see.
I just want to apologize ahead of time if you get interrupted.
You're good. I'm rolling with it. We'll see where the road takes us.
Nice. Well, welcome. So if you don't mind introducing yourself to everybody on the broadcast tonight, let them know who you are and where you're joining from.
Sure. Hello, I'm Gerard. I actually run Made Management along with Jeremy. So I facilitate the daily needs of most of the clients, trying to get them jobs, getting them signed with other agents. Been in the industry almost 10 years representing talent. So I represent talent in Canada, the US, Europe, Australia. So just a little bit everywhere. TV, film, print, writing, a little bit of everything. I am actually in Puerto Rico. We just got done filming a production, which is always exciting. So we will have more updates on that if you want to check out those shows that we're doing right now. But yeah, lovely, beautiful Puerto Rico where the sun was shining, but now it's dark.
Now the sun is set.
Now the sun
Yeah,
is set.
he's right. We were actually in the middle of production all day today. We were on set working from about what 1 p.m. till now, and it's now 8 p.m. our time. We literally just wrapped. just in time to see you guys, all you beautiful people out there. We love it. So we've been working hard on set today. We're excited to be here with you guys right now. But so you work with talent all over the world. You
That I do.
represent talent as a manager, but you started off in the industry. How did you get started? What was your path into the management side of your career? Did you always want to be, because you started off as an agent, right?
Yeah.
And now you're currently working as a manager, but have you always wanted to be an agent or a manager? Were you going through high
No.
school thinking, I'm going to be an agent or a manager?
No. I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana, so I had no idea what any of this was. I was actually in school for mechanical engineering, oddly enough. So very different than the world we live in the entertainment world. But yeah, so I was in school for engineering, and then moved out here, started working in Beverly Hills bartending, met my boss there. She asked me if I wanted to be work at her agency. I had no idea what it was. So I was like, what are you talking about? She's like, well, this is what I do. I was like, maybe. We'll see. She's like, look, try it out. If you like it, you can stay. If you don't like it, you can go back to the restaurant and bartend. I was like, okay. So started working with her. About 10 months into being an assistant, I opened up a TV film department for her company. Got that going. About a year later, I took over the youth departments. The year after that, I took over the non-union commercial departments, and then I started assisting in SAG and basically running everything else at the company as well. So yeah, did all that for 5.5 years was the journey I spent with her. Worked with another company for 2 years and then another agency for a year. And then the lovely Jeremy has been trying to convince me to come over for a while. And I always kind of knew I would end up doing the management side just because I always had a closer relationship with my clients. So a lot of my clients were hoping that I would switch to management because they wanted to talk to me and about more things than just the TV film department. They wanted to do commercials and writing and kind of have me help them facilitate everything that they wanted in their journey. So that management thing was like, you know what? I think it's time. So it's been a little over a year. Got into the management side, with traveling and meeting agents around the world. I kind of got the ability to meet different people in different regions. So I can now help my clients get jobs in Europe and Australia and Africa, Canada, Mexico. So I know agents everywhere now, so I can utilize my sources and kind of help facilitate a bunch of different things as opposed to just being LA or just being New York. I kind of have my hand in everything.
Nice.
So.
Well, I want to talk about the differences between agent and manager here in a minute, but before we do that, I kind of want to back up to your story of most people that are in the business, they start off as an actor or aspiring actor, and then most of the professionals I talk to, but you started off as a aspiring mechanical engineer.
An aspiring mechanical engineer. That it was.
What was your plan? I mean, because I don't see you as a mechanical engineer because I've only known you as Agent Gerard, and then of course now working with Made Management. But
surprise, yeah. So for a while, I wanted to be a doctor and all of that kind of stuff, but then mechanical engineering, I was always good at math and science. So mechanical engineering was 4 years. It makes sense. And then
lots of math and science involved.
Yeah, not the math and science. It's easier in my mind. Although I don't know. You see, there's two things. I tell one of my friends in LA what I did, and he's like, he's like, I couldn't, like you being an engineer, like engineers, and you're not like engineers. And I was like, yeah. He's like, so it's kind of weird. But at the same time, if you did get into engineering, you would be like a rarity. So people would maybe actually want to work with you more just because, there's not many like you. I was like, oh, that's an interesting take on that. I never thought of it that way. I looked at it as not many people are gonna, like, I would be bored because I sit in an office and I don't get to engage with people like this. And I don't know. So that's the two different. I was like, could I see myself doing it? But then I could have been something of a hot commodity.
Because you can actually hold conversations with people. That's what you're saying.
Exactly. The best of both worlds. It's yeah. So
Yeah, I mean, actually, it's funny because I have some family members who are engineers, not mechanical engineers, but
mhm,
and one of them has excelled exceedingly, kind of upper superior management type of a thing, and because of his ability to kind of not be the engineer,
right. Yeah.
because a lot of engineers are really, really hyper focused on what they do, and they don't like to interact with people, and he
Right.
is opposite of that. So, anyways, we're not here to talk about engineering.
And most people are surprised. They usually are like, "Oh, did you model?" I'm like, "No." "Did you act?" "No." They're like, "What did you do?" I was like, "Oh, I was in school for engineering." What?
Nice.
Kind of like a what?
Well, that's what makes you the expert,
Yeah.
because you didn't start in this field and you aren't jaded by, the acting side of things and really trying to make it big and not making it big and now working somewhere else, right? You are like this fresh perspective
Mhm.
on the industry and being a part of it for so many years. But so briefly, I do want to talk about. Well, let me ask you this question: which is better, since you and I are on here today? What is better, an agent or a manager?
Well, obviously a manager because that's what I do, right?
Well, of course,
Obviously,
absolutely. I mean, we could say that today because
simple question.
it's only us.
Yeah. Don't post it anywhere.
Don't let anybody else know that we said
Yeah, just don't let
that.
anyone else see. You can just block that part out. Everything else is okay. Just block that part out.
No, actually, that leads me to my next question is, you were working as an agent,
Mm.
you switched over to management, but you said that you always kind of wanted to do management. But can you explain why and what maybe some of the differences between working as an agent and now as a manager,
Yeah.
what that looks like?
So agents are basically there to procure you work. That's basically their main job. Procure you work, negotiate your contracts, and that's essentially their role in everything. And that's what they're limited to doing. Agents aren't supposed to do production, they're not supposed to do directing, they're not supposed to do anything else outside of being an agent, and that's why they're licensed to do that. So that's where their limitation stops. They're not supposed to do anything else. With management, you can kind of do everything. The only thing is you're not legally supposed to negotiate a contract, but that gets a little bit like you can, because if they don't have an agent, then you kind of like, there's obviously some wiggle room. As time has gone on, agents and managers have been kind of doing similar things. But I take the more old school approach to management, where I do try to help procure work, but I help guide their whole career. Like, I'm not just trying to get you a job on a commercial or a TV show, or like, that's some part of my job, but my main goal and main focus is to oversee everything and help facilitate all of the career as opposed to just one thing. With an agency, usually you just work in one department. So you might just do TV, film, you might just do commercial, you might just do print, you might just do literary. It just depends. Whereas me, I kind of help and oversee everything. So now I can kind of do all, so with like a broader spectrum as opposed to just an individualized narrow path. And less
Whereas,
clients as well. You usually have less clients because you are facilitating far more than you would if you were an agent. Like, agents have hundreds of clients, managers usually don't exceed 100 people, and that's still a lot. That's still pushing it, but that just,
so you can do pretty much everything an agent does
except
for the most,
negotiate.
but you have the freedom to do a lot more.
Right.
and
Mhm.
and work wise, and you're not, the nice thing is that we're not confined to, like Gerard said, some agents are, they can only work in commercial print world and that's it, and sometimes they're even within their own agency, they're limited to who they can work with age wise, so it might
Right.
be from age
Mhm.
22 to 36,
Right.
and that's it. So now you have the freedom to really work with
Do
anyone.
what I want. Anyone I want, doing anything, anywhere. So it's
And
nice.
and and so obviously all ages then.
Correct. Yep. All ages. Like I said, I worked with kids and adults in the agency world, but most agents usually only represent one or the other. You know, Once you turn 18 at bigger agencies, you get put into a new department, and you're not necessarily it's not necessarily guaranteed that you will get signed by the adult department if you don't have the right criteria that the adult department is looking for. So that's another thing,
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. With somebody in an agent with a current agent, and then
Right.
they move from one department
So
to the next,
Mhm.
the next department may not even want to work with them,
Yeah.
or
Even the
they might
bigger
already have somebody like them. Right.
the agency, you can run into a lot of things. Like if they have 4 agents, all of them have to agree for you to be signed. So that's when the agents say, like, I got to talk to my team. That means they have to sell you on their team in order to sign with their agency. Some agencies are a little bit stricter, some are different. So that's what's kind of nice about management. You kind of, everyone, even though we're at the same company, you can sign clients you want, I can sign clients I want. We have our own clients, even though we're at the same company. We still talk about things, but it's not as strict as
Right.
some agencies are, where they're like, no, you can't sign. And they're like, oh, well, that's it.
Yeah. When Gerard decides if he wants to work with somebody, he has the freedom to work with them, only if they're a superstar, though.
Yeah, obviously. But I only
Yeah.
find superstars.
Right. Of course.
Yeah.
That's all we work with, are superstars. So
Obviously.
that's all we're looking for. But
Mhm.
yeah. But yeah, so obviously you have the power, the ability to, decide if you are ready to be representing them or not.
Yeah.
You don't have to go through any red tape. You don't have to get permission from
Right.
anybody. It's ultimately your choice if you want to work with somebody or not.
Right.
So now let's talk about, obviously, working with somebody. What does that look like? The majority of the time, what I want people here tonight to kind of maybe take home and help with is, as an actor, I'm sure a lot of people, have the dream of being an actor, and that's why obviously they're here with us tonight, and we're giving them, information on how to best prepare for an acting career. But as an actor, one thing I want to really make clear is that uh, your job as an actor, your dream might be to be a superstar. Your dream might be to be a leading man on a movie set, or an actress in a Netflix series, right? But the reality is that's only part of the job. The other part of the job as an actor is auditioning.
Yeah.
That's a huge part of the job. And I think a lot of actors, they take the approach of, like, auditions are kind of such a pain, and you always have to do self tapes, and they get to be tedious, right? You get audition after audition, but what I think actors need to understand is that you can spend 3 months auditioning, and then 1 week in a production.
Right.
And then guess what? Once the production's done, you spend another 3 months auditioning. So with that, how much work is the audition part? I mean, I think it equals to be just as much as the actual acting part itself, right?
Yeah.
And the auditioning part is perfecting your craft, perfecting acting. So I want to talk about that, because that's really obviously where you start.
Right.
If you were to represent me tomorrow,
Mhm.
what would be my first task as your client?
Let's see. First, obviously, good headshots, because that's essential. But you should constantly be in classes, constantly be training. And I tell my clients to be self-taping regularly. Like, even if you're not getting an audition, you should be putting something on tape. You should be perfecting reading lines, memorizing lines. And like, if you have the same script and you've memorized it and you're good, then take it and try to do something different with that same script. So I used to do things in different, when I was in LA more, I used to do different teachings there. And in the teachings, they would come in prepared with this script. And usually it was a commercial, and they'd say, all right, this is my commercial script. And I'm like, okay, now do it completely different. And they're like, what do you mean? I was like, just be crazy over the top, or make it funnier. Losing my voice. And just do something different, you know, whatever it may be, try it in a completely different way. And they're like, huh. And so it kind of challenges you to be so familiar and used to this one way and then completely doing something different. And it just kind of opens you up to more creativity, so trying to work different creative components is important.
So you're saying that obviously good headshots for you to work with me, you're going to want to see me do a self tape, right?
Mhm.
You want, and what that looks like is me recording myself.
Yep.
With any commercial, I could do any commercial or any monologue or any material that I
Yep.
want.
Any material you want. Always find something. If you're going to do a commercial, find something that obviously makes sense. Don't be 30 and something that a 5-year-old does.
What about for me? Should I do a shaving commercial?
Yeah, absolutely. You look like you shave every day.
Perfect. Okay. So I could do like a Gillette razor commercial.
Absolutely. Because you clean it up a little bit. You got a little bit going on. Yeah, but you have some shape to it. So obviously you shave a little bit.
Well, yeah, we won't.
It's just a smidge. It's just taking the lightness off. I've never shaved a day in my life. No, I'm just kidding. I shave like every 2 days. And then with TV film, find a scene that you like, a really good scene, but not one too noticeable. A lot of people run into the problem. They'll find a scene that's so known that you're competing against that super well-known scene, and you'll never be as good as that scene because it's iconic. But if you find something like season 2, episode 3 of Stranger Things, and there's a great scene in it that has this great arc, but like no one's like, oh gosh, what, you make them to think, wow, that's a great scene. What's that from? And they're like, oh, right, that's from that. Yes, yes, yes. And that's what you want. You want that really great scene, but no one automatically is like, oh, that's Mean Girls. That's that. Boom. You know what I mean? So finding scenes that do that and match who you are is going to be important. Like a lot of people say, well, actors can play anything. I'm like, well, yeah, but no, because like you wouldn't see Jim Carrey play Thor. It's just not going to happen. So yeah, you can play anything, but that's just not going to be a thing. So
you don't see Jim Carrey auditioning for Thor?
Absolutely not. So, you know what I mean? So those kind of things is like, be just somewhat realistic. Like if you're that quirky character, yeah, there's some range in what you can do, but there's also still going to be some limitations to how drastic, or if you're going to beat someone that is perfect for that. So finding the category, the type that you are, what you can do, what your strong suits are, building those credits, and just constantly practicing tapes. Similar sports, like you don't just show up to game day to play. You practice 5 days out of the week, and then you get to game day. You practice every day leading up to it. You don't just, all right, it's Saturday, let's get on the game. Like, no, you practice every day.
And that's the thing. So again, this is one of the most important parts of the job, because as you get a self-tape, you get an audition request. Gerard's submitting you on projects and somebody wants to see more of you. They
Right.
requested you, right? So anytime somebody has a self-tape request, it's because a casting director wanted to see more, right? So this is now your job as an actor, is to produce as good of a self-tape as you possibly can, in a short amount of time, right? And although it may seem tedious because you sometimes have to do it 30 times before you book a role, that is the job really it's the very important part of it. And so this is why I want all of you guys out there watching today, I want you guys to get really good at this. I don't want you to have to spend hours trying to perfect it, especially when you get your first one. Right.
Yeah.
If Gerard just signed you and then he's like, okay, hey, I got your first self tape. A couple weeks go by and you got your first one. It might take you all day, 8
Right.
hours to do one. And we don't want that to happen. We don't want that for anybody. It should be something that feels natural. It also gives you the ability to practice your lines, and that's actually, Jason just mentioned that too. He says that he does self tapes weekly and he's constantly memorizing lines. I love that because, it just gives you the ability to just get dialed in. So then it becomes second nature.
Right.
There are people that you and I both know that we can send an audition script for self tape, and they'll get it done and back to us right away. Right?
There's
They
some
don't
that I know I
really
don't even have to
care.
review their tape before submitting because I know they're just going to send in quality stuff all the time. And then there's other ones that are like, okay, they're newer. Let's teach them some things and let's be like, let's watch it. So then we know, all right, hey, we can do this differently or something like that.
Right. Absolutely. I love it. So now diving in, so obviously homework assignment for people out there who do not have an agent or a manager to work with is to practice your setup, right? Practice setting up a self-tape, pull some lines, but like Gerard mentioned, find material that's going to be appropriate for you. We've seen hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of auditions in our careers here in the entertainment business. And there's never something, I don't know, for me, do you feel like it's a kind of a turnoff when somebody gets up to do some material and they're performing their commercial in front of you, or they're submitting their commercial and it's just the complete wrong choice?
Yeah.
Is that like a negative? Do you think in your mind, what
For
went
sure,
wrong here? And then you don't end up working with them, right?
it shows the first thing almost every actor needs to do when they're ready to get into the business is knowing their character type. And it's one of the hardest things that, especially in the beginning, finding it out, because like I said, people go to these classes or they school and they're like, you can play any role you want. I'm like, no, no, find who you are, find your strong suits, find what your strengths are. Like, just because I'm good in sports doesn't mean I can play every single sport the best. Like, I'm a basketball player. That doesn't mean I'm going to be like just as good in baseball or soccer. Like, no, I'm basketball. Like, you know what you're doing. Yes, I can play baseball. Yes, I can play soccer, but my strength is here. So focus on
Not everybody can be Bo Jackson.
right. Not everyone can. I mean, if you can, great. You have range in your performance, but figure out the beginning parts of, okay, this is what my strengths are. Let's build with that and then expand. So start with one and then expand. Don't just try to do a bunch of things. In the beginning, obviously, you're going to have to practice different things in order to find out what it is that you are strong at and what you're good at. So I always say, ask people, don't ask yourself, ask people around you what they see you as, because it gives you a different insight into who you are and what you can do. And they're like, well, I see you kind of like this. And you're like, oh, I never thought of me being like that. Because you're kind of like inside looking out is different than outside looking in. So asking people around you, like, what would you see me as if you were casting me as something or putting me on like what kind of character? So ask people around you that can give you that idea.
And be careful with who you ask too.
Well, yeah, don't ask ask people you like generally that know you, that see you in everyday life or different scenarios and like that kind of stuff is going to be better, and it gives you different ideas and be like, oh, okay, maybe I should try that out. So try those things and, like I said, build on it, but finding out who you are, what you can do, and what kind of lane you're in is good in the beginning, just to get that solid foundation to build on.
And then find commercials or monologues that you can work on for that particular type of person, character. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't mean that just because people say you're one thing today, doesn't mean that you have to be that for the rest of your life, right? We're just saying, take who you are today, develop that, and then expand from there. If you decide to become somebody else, if maybe you're somebody who's maybe a little overweight and doesn't like to exercise much, and so you're funny, and so you want to be kind of that character.
Mm-hmm.
And then let's say 5 years go by and you want to become, The Rock. Nobody's stopping you from becoming The Rock. Like, do that, right? But change your scripts along the way as you, as you do that. But I don't think you caught my Bo Jackson reference I made earlier.
I did. Michael Jordan did the same, right? Because he played basketball and baseball. Did he play?
Oh,
what did he play?
I lost you. Are you still with me?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Did you catch it?
I did. But there's.
Do you remember Bo Jackson?
Somewhat, not really though. No, I'm not that familiar. But I was like, Michael Jordan did the same thing, right? Didn't he play basketball and
Michael
baseball? Right?
Jordan did, yeah. Okay.
See, I'm not
Let me
always. I'm not
let me
always.
educate you a little bit.
I got a little bit.
All right. So Bo Jackson, for those of you who don't know, this is another homework assignment. See, we're helping so many people around the world. I love it. Bo Jackson was a professional football player who also played professional baseball. And they used to do commercials back in the early 90s, I think it was, called Bo Knows. And basically they put him in, I think it was a Nike commercial even, I'm not even sure, but they put him in doing everything, right? So they would show, because they exaggerated because he played two professional sports. They showed him playing like professional tennis, professional golf, professional, and they're basically saying Bo knows how to do everything. So you're saying for the actors to not just, you can't do everything. But another side note, since you distracted me with Bo Jackson, the best
Didn't Michael Jordan play golf too or something, right?
the best 30 for 30 ESPN 30 for 30 for any of you out there, that show 30 for 30 where they go back and they look at stories. It's like a 30-minute episode of athletic stories. The best one is Bo Jackson's. Amazing, hands down. You know who shared that with me? A good friend of ours, Miss Hayden Jones from the Jones Agency. Yeah, she's the
Okay.
one who told me about it years ago.
She's a sports fanatic. Okay.
Yeah, I know.
She is a sports fanatic. She's been on a live before. I used to go to with her. She goes to like sports bars regularly to watch every football game, basketball game, like everything.
Yeah, no, I know.
Everything. She
Yeah.
is always watching sports. I'm like, gosh. She tries to talk to me, and I'm like, I have no clue.
So Hayden Jones told me, she goes, Jeremy, we were actually at a sports bar watching, I think it was like the World Series or something. We happened to be working on a showcase together or someplace in the middle of the country, in the middle of the world somewhere. Anyways, we were watching the game and she goes, Jeremy, you want to know what the best 30 for 30 is? Bo Jackson. So all you sports fans out there, there's a tip for you. Go out, watch it, look it up on YouTube, stream it tonight.
Yeah.
It will be phenomenal. It'll change your life.
The
But
more you
let's get into the basics of self tapes. I know, some of the people out there obviously have done this before. They know this, and some have not even tried it yet. But I just want to emphasize this is very important. For someone like Gerard and myself, we really want you guys to just be really good at this, because guess what? If you're really good at self tapes, it means you book roles, right? I mean, that's what it comes down to. And gone are the days where you can go in if you had a good charisma and personality, and you can go in face to face with a casting director, and your acting might not be the greatest, but yet your personality, you can light up a room and you can shake hands and you can be really nice and presentable and you can leave an impact, an impression. Those days are now gone because of COVID, and the self-tape world is now upon us. Not that in-person auditions don't happen anymore, but it's just very few and far between compared to what it used to be.
Yeah. Commercials. Commercials have gone in person, callbacks, but TV film, you might do a Zoom, but a lot of it's self-tape first call, maybe a Zoom callback. So getting familiar with that self-tape world, but also you need to practice in person, because once you do go on set, you need to be ready to perform in front of people on one take, two takes. They don't want to take 30 different takes of the same spot.
Right.
That's a lot of film.
Right. So you have to be ready to go. So everybody out there today can go online, look up some sort of commercial script, on the internet, do a search for it, find one that's appropriate for their age or who they are. If they're athletic, they can find an athletic one, or if they love pizza, they can find a pizza one, whatever works.
You can make things funny, like you mentioned, like if someone was overweight and like they're not into sports, you could do a Nike commercial, but make it funny. You know what I mean? Because you want to take something and you want to make it different. I always tell people, casting directors have no idea what they're looking for until you show them what they're looking for.
Right.
So
That's
they
true.
have this script and it's just this random script and they're like, all right, what are we gonna do with it? And then you go in and then it's like, oh, that's fun. I like
Yeah.
that. And
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
what,
Exactly.
and that's what they use. That's why commercial likes improv. They give you this one line and then they're like, make it your own. And that's usually what makes it into the final cut is whoever made it the most unique and something that those the ad agencies were looking for, so
Right.
being creative, thinking outside the box, being like just giving them something different opens up to like you most likely booking the job.
Right. You have to understand when you submit your self tape, I'm sure the lines are going to be perfect. They
Mhm.
should be, because you had all the time in the world to
Right.
do 500 takes and get your lines perfect, right? So that's the beauty of being able to self tape versus going in person. You might mess up your lines, right?
Right.
So now every casting director understands that if they request 100 self tapes, they're going to get 100 lines correct, right?
Right.
So they're going to get 100 self tapes with all the lines correct. So
Mhm.
what makes you different than the 99 others?
Right.
How can you stand out? And that's all you can do is to try to be different than everybody else, and try to think creatively or how you can present
Yeah.
it. And you're not going to get it right all the time.
No.
You might have 10 auditions where you really can't think a whole lot like different than what the script has given you, but then you have one audition be like, ooh, I love this script. I know what I can do
Mhm.
that's probably
Yeah.
different than everybody else, right? And
Yeah.
and so that aha moment will come to you and you can practice it. But again, like what Gerard said, practice doing things differently now.
Mhm.
Like what he tells people to do is, okay, so you did it once. Now give me something different. So record yourself doing it once and then give yourself do it different next time.
Right.
Be excited, be angry, be confused, be stressed out, like, all these different emotions that you can apply to it.
Add a different take.
Right.
That's always funny. The one you think you're not gonna book is the one you end up booking. It's so fun the way that works. So many actors. I'm like, all right, you're on a veil, or you booked this one, and they're like, really, that one? They're like, I didn't think I booked that one at all. And then I get these calls, and they're like, oh, this one's mine. Nothing. It's so funny the way
This
it
one's
happens
perfect for me. This is the
all
perfect role.
the time. The one you're like, oh, this one I nailed. And I'm like,
Yeah,
no avail, no callback. And the one you're like, I'm booked for what?
that's
When that one? Really? I'm like,
that's
that's
what I
the
thought
one.
when they were casting Mission Impossible back in the day, and I was like, oh, this is perfect for me, right? I told my agent that, and I'm like, this is
Yeah.
perfect for me. And I, auditioned for it, and I'm like, I didn't get it. Tom Cruise got it.
Right.
I don't understand. Like, it was the perfect role for me.
I think I could definitely play that better. I'm very just athletic and I totally can outdo Tom Cruise for sure.
Right.
I got that.
Now, somebody asked here, I see my special guest has arrived.
He has
Mr.
arrived.
David is here with us. Nice. Well, I'll bring him on in just a minute, but let me just get to this question here about self-tapes. Anne Fernandez is asking, always show the same script for my self-tape and in-person auditions. Oh, she's asking if she can do the same script for self-tapes and in-person auditions. I would not recommend it. Here's what my thought is. So
Mhm.
I'm not understanding the question 100%, but I'm thinking if you are, this is for Joanna Rose. So if you are auditioning in person at,
Mhm.
let's say, a showcase or an event, right? And there's agents and managers there, and they love what they see, and then they request a self tape. Should they film something new, or should they just film the same?
I say once you've done something so many times, it becomes boring, even for yourself. Like if you get up and you repeat the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, eventually you're kind of like, okay, I'm tired of repeating the same thing. So you don't have as much excitement as you do with a new script that you just like accomplished, I guess you can say. So like once you got all those lines down, you're like, oh yes, I nailed it. And you have that energy and you're good. So it's like finding that line of once you're not bored with it, or and then once you are bored with it, getting it down and then tweaking it and be like, oh, I could do it this way, I could do it this way, and having more fun. I can do that. Once you perfect it, find something new, because now you're not learning anything else. One, two, it's boring. And if you can find one that not everyone's doing, that's even better. Or if you find one that people are doing, but you make a unique twist, people are like, oh, that was good. Because when you hear the same thing over and over, you're gonna, you get bored. But if you do something different, like, oh, that was fun. It shows something different. It shows something unique. And that's what everyone in the industry is looking for. Something unique, something different, and, something that just is just outside the box.
Right.
Everyone wants that uniqueness.
As an actor, you're an artist, right? You're always wanting to create. So, find new material all the time. That's stuff that inspires you, stuff that you enjoy doing, have fun.
Expand and grow. That's what you're supposed to do. Expand and grow.
Well, thanks for joining me. I'm going to interrupt our session tonight here. I have another guest that's coming in. This is a 2-for-1 tonight, you guys. I'm glad you guys joined us. This is a great session. We got all kinds of interesting perspectives coming in today. So thank you, Gerard, for joining us. I'm going to bring David on. I see David's here today.
All right. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you. Hey, David. How are you doing?
Very good. How are you?
Doing well. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Welcome to today's session. We appreciate you being here today.
Thank you.
If you don't mind introducing yourself to everyone that's tuning in tonight, letting us know who you are and where you're joining us from.
Of course. I am joining in from Mexico City. It's late tonight and dark, so that's why I have a light on me.
Okay.
My name is David Souza. I live in Mexico City. I have been an agent for models for 20 years. And I have recently started doing some fashion PR for actors and singers as well for the last 3 years. And I love working with talent, and I love discovering new talent and fresh faces all the time.
Nice. Well, thank you for joining us late on a Saturday evening. We appreciate your time. So you're in Mexico City. So let's talk about it. So you've worked in the industry for 20 years now. You run a very successful modeling agency there. But do you work with talent worldwide or just in Mexico City?
I do. So I have two kinds of talents. Talent that I discover locally in Mexico, and we develop them and then send them to live in New York, LA, etc., Paris, Milan, London. And then we also work with agencies all over the world that send us talent to come to Mexico City. And sometimes they'll send models that will live here for 3 months and, work and develop their career. Actors as well. There's a lot of Netflix and Amazon are starting to produce a lot of film and TV shows and stuff in Mexico. So it's just become, I feel like the world is just getting so much smaller in that sense. Internationally, there's just so many possibilities.
Right, absolutely. So obviously a lot happening in Mexico itself and around the world, which you can work with models with. Now, what is your favorite part about being a model manager? What do you enjoy most about it?
I love working with all kinds of people from all walks of life, everybody's different personality, people who are older, younger, quiet, loud, etc. But I will say I love seeing the evolution of someone that is brand new to the industry and starts to grow. And it's definitely an industry where you can grow very quickly or very slowly, depending on, the effort you put in. But I've just seen people that started as somebody very shy, very, in their own little box, and just kind of came out of their shell through modeling or through acting. And it's a very cool thing to see. And also I've seen people who, because of this job, have been able to travel the world and see places that they would have never seen otherwise. So I would say that it's the people that you get to meet and the situations, and also I'm lucky that I've gotten to go on amazing trips. I go to Paris and Milan for Fashion Week every season. I go to New York a lot, and I go to, now that I'm in this other side as well, I go to premieres for movies and red carpets and stuff like that. So it's very, very interesting. Never gets dull. and you get to meet all kinds of people with crazy personalities and just all kinds of languages, and I love learning from people from all over the world, so kind of keeps you
Nice.
young.
So I was hoping you were going to skip the red carpet events and the fashion shows as part of one of the most exciting thing about your job.
I
Because
I
I
love
see
it.
you on Instagram. I know that you do that. So
Yeah, I do love it. I will say it's like every other job, like there's days where it's there's stress and whatever, so it's not all glamour, but there definitely is a glamorous side to it, and there's definitely really cool perks to it. And I really enjoy it. I can't complain.
And those fashion shows, I know that, like you said, you know, there's a lot of work involved and stress and things that, you know, just like any typical job. But obviously, the fashion shows are kind of like that moment where you can now sit back and really enjoy a lot of hard work, right?
Yep.
As you're watching one of your models walk the runway, and you know the years that it's taken for them to get to where they want that point or whatever, you know, they went through and you went through. I'm sure it's
It's
kind of a very rewarding moment.
it's extremely rewarding. And I kind of feel like a proud parent, seeing my kid up there. It's very nice, and seeing like the fruit of your labor, because the glamorous part is a small chunk of time, and the part of the models going to castings and working on their walk and working on their presence and all of that. You get to see, like I said, the evolution from 0 to 100, and it's really fun. And when you get to see the show, it's just like the experience of going to some of these fashion shows. It's just from the moment you get there and you get to wherever they're holding the show, and the music and the lights and the sound and the people watching, also when you see whoever's sitting front row, and then the models come out and the collections are awesome, and seeing your models succeed, the whole thing is it's like the fashion Olympics, apparently. That's how I feel it is, but it's very, very rewarding, and it doesn't get old. I will say I've been doing this for a long time, and I feel very blessed that I still do it. And it doesn't get old, to me
Right.
at least.
Well, very good. Well, I want to now switch gears here and talk to you about a subject that's maybe a little more controversial in the fashion world. But I do want to ask you about kind of have you seen the Vogue guest campaign, the AI generated one?
Yes, I did see it.
And what are your thoughts on how aspiring models can stand out in the world and compete with AI?
I can answer that whole question with one word: personality. If you don't have personality, I think the future for models. So let's say, in the 70s and 80s, you could be a very successful model and nobody would know your voice. You could literally, everyone knew your face, they knew your name. Nobody would know your voice or your personality. They didn't know if you were vegan, if you were into wild animals, if you were into wrestling, whatever. Nowadays, to be a successful international top model, you need personality. It's a very like rounded thing now. So you need social media, you need to be able to handle an interview, you need to be able to talk, you need to bring something to the table. The competition now is because of social media and internet or whatever. Scouting new talent is really easy, and there's way more competition for everything now. So I think the only way to stand out and to truly carve a place for yourself in the industry is having a personality, and that's something that an agent and a manager can't create for you. We're there to help you grow and to, again, help you come out of your shell. But I can't make up a personality and tell you, hey, Jeremy, I wrote a little script of who you're going to be now. Like, you can tell when someone, so it's you getting comfortable in front of the camera, getting comfortable with self tapes, with castings, with interviews, with walking a runway, walking a red carpet, etc. So my take on the AI thing, I don't, I don't like it personally. Like I wouldn't want to. I don't think that the modeling industry will die and be replaced with AI models, but I do think it's another competitor, let's say. So you now are competing with AI models as well. But I do think that at the end of the day, we are humans and we want this interaction. We want to see at least I want to see a model on a cover of a magazine or in the campaign for, Prada, Gucci, whatever. I want to see a model that I know and that I like. So that's and the only way for me to know this model and like this model is for them to have a personality, so that I find out about them and I follow them on Instagram and I see them when they, are on TikTok, or they have a YouTube channel, or they go on talk shows, etc. So because I feel a connection to this model, I want to see her in these campaigns and stuff. The top models of the 90s, Linda Evangelista, Naomi Campbell, Cindy Crawford, they're all still working in their mid to late 50s because they have an amazing personality. And
Right.
that's why they keep like the power of reinvention. They have been able to reinvent themselves decade after decade and carve a place for themselves in an industry that's so quick to discard, and looking for
Mhm.
the new thing. And these women have worked for years and are still, finding a way to stay relevant and to still have a place in such a competitive industry. And it's their personality. And I've met many of them. And when you're with them, you just can't stop looking at them and you can't stop listening to them. And it's just amazing. And I've also met amazing talent that had amazing potential and never really wanted it. They never worked hard, and their careers never took off. So to
Right.
me, the secret now to have a sustainable career is to have a name and a personality. And when people want you in their campaign or their runway show, is because they want you because of everything you stand for and not just your pretty face.
Right.
Does that
Yeah,
answer the
that
question?
makes sense for sure. Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And the thing is too is talking about personality. A lot of times people, when you say personality, a lot of people think of it as just that energy of that person that comes into the room, and everybody knows who they are, kind of a thing. But you can have a really good personality and not necessarily be that person. I've actually worked with and have had clients that they're very introverted, so they're very kind of like soft spoken and quiet. And then when they have, like, they prefer to kind of maybe sit and spend time on their own and read books and do that sort of thing, and not necessarily be, Mr. or Mrs. Social Butterfly. But when it's time for them to work and then to go do meet and greets or to go, network or to be in front of the camera, they're all of a sudden now, the personality that everybody loves, right? Friendly and outgoing and that sort of thing. So you don't have to be the person that's always
Yeah,
on.
you don't have to be the life of the party and you don't have to be this
Right.
crazy. What I think is you have to be, and it sounds cheesy, but it's true, you have to be yourself. And if your
Yeah.
true personality is a more quiet, introverted person, by being your true self, but there's a difference between being introverted and being completely, unprepared to do the job and insecure.
Right.
If you're prepared and you're confident in saying, I'm a great actor, I'm a good model, etc., yet you're introverted and quiet and you walk into the casting, wait for your turn and say hi, nice to meet you, my name's David. You don't have to be this crazy like to still make an impression on the client and to show that
Right.
you have something to bring to the table. And even
Right.
in the way you dress, the way you speak, you can tell when someone has a personality and when someone is copying someone's way of talking, way of walking, way of dressing. Do you get what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
I like, I am very, you know, in a professional way, I am very interested in working with models who are loud, others who are more quiet, people who dress very eccentrically, other people who dress very, demure. But
Mhm.
when you can tell they're being themselves
Yeah.
and it feels real and natural, that's very attractive. And
When it feels
it's
authentic.
interesting. Yeah, and talking to someone and just saying hi, what's your name? And some people are very much like, oh, my name's this, and I'm a Libra, I'm a Capricorn, and they just start talking, and it's very entertaining, and and it feels very real. And other people are very quiet and like, hi, my name's David, and just kind of, but the way that they're saying it, you can tell is natural, and you can tell that they're confident, and that
Mhm.
to me is what shows. And not everybody, when you become a public person and you garner like a following in your career, some people, comedians are very different, obviously, to someone who's a director or a writer or a designer. Nowadays, even a designer for Chanel, for Gucci, they have social media and they have a way of presenting themselves and their art and their and everybody has their own way. So it's just about really knowing who you are and what you can bring to the table, I think is the best thing. And when you're new into the industry and you don't know who you are as a model, as a singer, it's kind of like, I guess you can try a little bit of everything and find your way. But the confidence only comes from practice, in my opinion. You know, the more castings you go to, the more self tapes you take, the more runway classes you, etc. The more practice, it's easier once the casting comes and once the job comes to be able to do it well.
Right. And to hopefully have it easier to do than when you first start off, it takes you so much time to get through that.
Hmm.
So that's what all this practice does, is it makes things a lot easier for you. You get, like you said, the confidence. You're hopefully booking the jobs. That's what we all
Yeah.
want, right? We all
Yeah.
want talent that can book jobs. That's the goal.
100%.
So another question I have for you is, what's the biggest misconception about being a famous model? What do you think people that are out there and they're wanting to become a famous model, what do you think that misconception is when they're looking at that person?
So a few misconceptions about fame is that you can be very famous and make no money. Especially nowadays, you might have done one campaign here and you did like this video on TikTok that went viral and something. So let's say you have 20 million followers and you're not making much money because you're not knowing how to monetize your career. Um, so fame and money don't always go together. That's one misconception. Second is that you may think that you see a model that you follow on Instagram and she has 2 million followers and she has a few covers and she's done campaigns, and you might think, oh, her career is just like so easy now. She never goes to castings, and that's a misconception. First of all, there's always something you haven't done. This person has done the cover of Vogue, but she's never done a beauty campaign. She's never had a beauty contract, like a 1 year contract with Estee Lauder or with CoverGirl, or she's never done the Victoria's Secret fashion show. So there's always something you've never done. I remember for years, like Gigi Hadid had not done Prada, and she wanted it and wanted it and wanted it. She finally did it. And you could have said, and Gigi was rich because she comes from a very rich family and she was already famous, but there's always something, on someone's list that they've never done, if they've never accomplished. And also, I would say the industry has moments where it's usually no one's career is on a high their entire lifetime. Sometimes
Right.
you've been a little overexposed. You did a million covers, you've done a million, and people are a little bit like bored of you, let's say, and there comes a slower season in your career. And when you are a good model and when you've really learned your craft, your career will survive and you will have, ups and downs. So again, a misconception is that just because you're famous and just because you've done successful things that you're on easy street for the rest of your life. Like there's always a level of competition, and you could say like, oh, I'm Cindy Crawford, I'm the best. Yeah, you are, but you are also competing against 10 other ones that are at your level. And so like you have to stay on top of your game.
Right.
It's not I mean, I think any career in the world, like as soon as you think like, oh, I've made it, I'm done, um you can lose it, pretty quickly.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously the athletic world, that happens all the time, right? Those guys are continually fighting for their positions of wherever they're at in athletics. But the same with acting. There's career actors that have had hugely successful careers and have been leading men in starring in movies, and they still get acting coaches. They still take training for whatever upcoming role they have, that's coming up, because they want to keep that edge. They want to stay on top of their game. They want to be, they want those Oscars,
And
those
if you
goals.
win an Oscar, then right after the Oscar, there's a pressure of like, I just won an Oscar. My next movie better be. So there's obviously sides to the industry that when you are very successful, there's also a lot of pressure and a lot of eyes on you. And when you do something bad, and when as a model, when you didn't look good in the show and you didn't walk well, everybody's gonna talk about it and tweet about it and Instagram about it and tag you. And if you won an Oscar and your next movie is a flop, and people are criticizing the way the script and your acting and your, let's say Sydney Sweeney, that she's super famous and she just did this commercial with American Eagle, and people are, criticizing her left and right. And so there's definitely always challenges in this career, and there's always so much sacrifice. I think that's what a lot of people don't talk about. These successful models, actors, and singers, there is a level of sacrifice that you can't even imagine. Like when you book this amazing movie, you might have to move to the middle of nowhere, far from your family and your friends or whatever, for 3 or 4 months. And yes, you're going to make a lot of money and stuff, but there are sacrifices, because sometimes I think when you're younger, it's easier. But if you're married with kids and stuff and you have to leave for 3 months and live somewhere else, and it's complicated. It's harder to have, quote unquote normal life or a normal schedule when your job. And guess what? As an actor, you're unemployed all the time. The second you finish your movie, you're unemployed again until somebody books you for your next film. Obviously, when you're one of the most famous actors in the world, it's not an economic issue. You probably have a lot of money, but still, that technically you're unemployed every few months.
Right.
As a model, it's like you have no guaranteed paycheck. Like every day, it's you know a new hustle. So there are amazing sides to this, but there's definitely a side of sacrifices, of having to take a lot of trips, that even if they're glamorous, there's also, I know a lot of people, a lot of my friends that have missed their best friend's wedding because they were filming a TV show and they couldn't get out of it, and things like that. It's tough. During COVID, a lot of my actor friends, they weren't allowed to leave the set, and et cetera, et cetera. They worked under harder conditions because of safety, and they couldn't see their family or their friends for 3 months, or just don't take a job for 6 months. So there's a lot more sacrifice than people think.
Yeah. Yeah. And so obviously that side of things you don't really see. It's not advertised much. You don't see the actors who are posting on their Instagram, hey, I just missed my best friend's wedding. I was supposed to be the maid of honor. You don't see that because they're not out there advertising it. But yet that stuff's happening all the time.
Yeah. And there's also like again, the pressure. I mean, I can't imagine the people that are very famous that, like, you can't, they're again, sacrifice. When you are someone like a Taylor Swift, you can never go to the grocery store again. You can't go to the movies. You can't. So, I mean, a
A
nice
lot of people are
problem to
thinking,
have, I
oh, good,
guess.
I don't have to go to the grocery store anymore.
But everything, we all want what we don't have, and
Right.
those people want I want to have a normal walk in the park, and so anyways,
Right.
there's a lot more sacrifice that people don't talk about, and the pressure is very high when you're that model that you were the model of the year, and you did 36 fashion shows, and you opened all these shows, and you did 3 covers of Vogue that last year. The next year, it's like it's there's always a new hill to climb.
Right.
So it's a very competitive industry.
Now, let me ask you this. What is one skill that you think that all models should master?
So many, but
That's a
um
tough one. I know.
I think truly, I mean, again, so many, but really not comparing yourself to others. And it's very hard. But you are nobody is the same as you. Everybody is better in some ways and worse in some ways. And there's always going to be somebody taller, somebody shorter, somebody younger, somebody older, somebody more famous, less famous, bigger nose, smaller nose. And the second you start comparing yourself to everybody, you're going to lose no matter what. And maybe this model does this exact same thing and it works perfect for you, and you do the exact same thing and it doesn't work for you. So there's no, the rhyme and reason of the industry is very tricky and fickle. And so it's sticking to, you are competing against yourself and sticking to this way of being. At the end of the day, you have to know what it takes for you to feel good, and you have to take care of your skin, your nails, your hair, your body, your health. And some people, you might be fine with working out once a week, and I might need to work out 6 times a week. I depends. And you might be fine with sleeping 5 hours, and I might need 8 hours for me, and I have to stay on top of myself. And that's the key thing as a model. You have to stay on top of your own. Nobody's going to be your nanny. Nobody's going to make sure that you go to sleep at the right time and that you eat what you needed to eat, and et cetera, et cetera. I know people that say, I need to wake up. If I have an early call time, I need to wake up 3 hours earlier because I wake up with a very puffy face. I need enough time to wake up, do my, skin thing and put some ice on my face and et cetera, to be ready 3 hours later. Some people can wake up, barely wash their face, hop in a cab, and they get to the shoot and they look fine. So
Right.
you need to know what you need to do to stay on top of your game. And that's a skill that takes time in learning and being
To master.
disciplined and,
Yeah.
and yeah.
Who you are. And I love that. Don't compare yourself. Like if you can learn to not compare yourself to others, you're not only are you going to do that much better, but you're also probably going to be that much more happy, right? You're not going to be stuck in the comparison model.
If you compare yourself to others, you're going to be miserable.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I've seen situations where somebody, let's say it's you and me right now, and somebody walks
Oh,
into the casting and
so we lose you.
you walk in first and you're wearing this black hat, and people are like, "Oh, I love your hat," blah, blah, blah. And then I walk in the next moment and they're like, "Can you take your hat off?" And I'm like, "Oh, what?" And it doesn't matter. And they might be like, "Oh, I love your beard." And then I walk in with the same looking beard and they're like, "Would you shave?" There is no rhyme or reason. And the second you compare yourself to others, you will be miserable. There's
Right.
always going to be somebody doing better, or at least you think they're doing better, or
Yeah.
you think everything's easier for them, and it's not.
You talked about working out and your health and how important that is, but I mean, it really is because, the better you feel, the better you perform, right? And so it everything's tied in this world, believe it or not. How much sleep you get, de- you know, depends on how you feel the next day. The next day, based on how much sleep you had, what you ate the day before will determine how you feel the next day,
A
right? If
hundred
you went
percent.
to the gym one day, will determine how you feel the next day. And so, it's all tied into success, to mental health, to feeling good about yourself. Everything is this big, it's not separate parts, right? And so people kind of forget that sometimes. And so it's important to learn who you are. I love that how you said that, learn who you are.
Some people, I've seen a lot of models that work so hard at the casting. They show up, they look amazing. They did their hair, they make whatever, and they just look amazing. They go to the casting, they book the job. The job's in a week, and then they show up to the job and they look awful. And I feel like they got confident with, oh, I booked the job. They love me. And then they show up tired, they look awful, their energy is low. So of course, that you just shot yourself in the foot, because the client liked you, they booked you, they're never going to want to work with you again.
Right.
And it's a very small industry, and you can very quickly, blacklist yourself, or like make sure that everybody does not want to work with you ever again. And I've seen models that had, again, they start booking everything, but they booked every job once, and nobody
Right.
ever wanted to work with them again. And that's awful. That says a lot about the way you treat your job. And to me, I always say a job is yet another casting. Because if
Yeah.
you booked me right now and I'm shooting the Macy's catalog, and I show up to the Macy's catalog, that photographer that's shooting me that day, and that
Yeah.
stylist and that hair and that makeup person, they all work on a bunch of other jobs. And if I do an
Absolutely.
amazing job, they're going to tell people, and they're going to say, "Hey, I just worked with this model, David. He's from Mexico. He's amazing. We should use him for this J. Crew shoot that we have, or this,
Yeah.
Aloe Yoga shoot that we have." And if I don't do a good job, any of them are going to be in some room someday soon hearing
Yeah.
about somebody wanting to book me, and they're going to say, "Please don't book that model. We worked with
Right.
him. He was a nightmare. He was always on his phone. He was always trying to have a smoke break. He was very disrespectful. He was, et cetera, et cetera."
Right.
So, of
Absolutely. I love that. And also not only that, they're promoting you. So,
course,
you always be networking, right? As a model, actor, wherever you're at on set, they're either promoting you or they're not, right? And so, even like your makeup artist, for example, if a makeup artist is working with you and they love you and they love your look and they're having fun and they're enjoying the time that they spend with you, guess what? That makeup artist is going to promote you because the makeup artist helped create that look, right? So whatever that look was, that makeup artist is shouting it out on your Instagram, on their Instagram pages or their TikToks or whatever social media platforms they're on. And so you're getting more eyes on you because you were a very nice person and easy to work with and was friendly to that makeup artist, right? And if you're not, then it's not happening, so always be networking.
Yeah, 100%. And it's so much easier to network now with social media. You can
Right.
be on set and take a photo of yourself, a behind the scenes thing and be like, shooting for, and you can ask the hair, the makeup people, hey, can I tag you? And you tag who did your hair, who did your makeup, who was the stylist. Follow them on Instagram. They're probably going to follow you back. You stay in touch, and you start building a reputation for yourself and a relationship with all these people, and most likely they're going to want to work with you again.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, when that next project comes up and they know you're perfect for it and they're in a room with somebody that they can say, hey, you should check out so-and-so. I worked with them. They were great, and that happens all day long.
And you create such a reputation that you get to a point where you're really rarely doing castings because everybody is just calling your agency and saying, hey, I want to book David because I know he's like such a great model and we know he's going to do the job well.
I hate it when that happens.
I know it's honestly, it should be every model's dream, when you
Right.
don't have to do any castings anymore and people are just fighting over working with you.
Right.
And as an
Yeah.
agent, it's awesome to get that call because you can that the model is earning that reputation.
Yeah.
So
And
you
it makes
also
you feel
feel very
proud.
confident to send your model out to a job when you
Right.
know they're going to do an amazing job and they're going to be called back many times.
Right. Absolutely. I love it. And knowing yourself is important. I know myself enough. I know that I love pizza enough that I have to run 20 miles a day in order to eat as much pizza as I want. So it's a very important skill to learn. Uh,
Definitely.
what's one way that you guys handle rejection at your agency, and what's advice for models out there to try to learn who are
It's
facing
very easy
constant?
for me to say as an agent not to take things personal, but again, that's another skill that you start developing. Don't take it personal. I will say 98% of the rejection is not personal, and there's a 2% that is, and I'll touch on that in a second. But most of the rejection is you just weren't right for the job. You were a little too small for the clothes. You were a little too big for the clothes. You looked a little bit older than the other model who was already booked and is going to be in the shot. You look a little bit younger than the other model, that etc. It's not personal. They wanted somebody with bigger eyebrows, smaller eyebrows, a thicker nose. It's the dumbest things. It's really most of the time not personal. When it is personal, the client will tell us usually. I'm not booking that model because they are unprofessional, they're late, they're disrespectful, they're a nightmare to work with. When they change clothes, they throw everything on the floor, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a personal rejection. I will very much tell the talent, hey, this is very concerning that this person doesn't want to book you, because that's the worst part is when a client will tell me this model would be perfect for the job, but I don't want to work with them because they are awful to work with. That's
Yeah,
a difference. That's definitely a personal rejection. It's something that you earned,
right.
because of creating a negative reputation for yourself. Um, when it's not, and sometimes, for example, I've had clients be like, "Hey, I really want, a model for this shoot, and we're really looking for a blonde, or we really only want to see brunettes," and then they're like, "Never mind, we want this redhead girl," and you're like, so sometimes the client doesn't even know what they want. So it's
Right.
really not personal. It really isn't. Sometimes they're very much like, we want someone with short hair, and then this random model walks into the casting with longer hair, and they're like, "Never mind, this is who we want." So there really isn't, most of the time the feedback is, if you didn't book the job, it's just because you were not the right look, the right fit, etc. Sometimes I will say I've had clients call me and say, hey, we really like your model, so and so, but they're not so strong in the camera yet. They need to work on their body, they need to work on their walk, they need to work on their poses. And it's, I love it when we get that feedback, because then I can talk to the model and tell them, hey, this is something that the client
Right.
said, and it's something you can work on.
Right. You know what to give them specifically to work on at that point.
Yeah, because if they didn't book you because you look a little bit younger than that job, then that's fine. It's just the one job that it's fine. You can't be perfect for every job, and that's something. It's like the top models of this world are still getting rejected all the time.
Right.
If you book one job out of 10 castings, I think you're a very good model.
Yeah, you're
So
doing well
that
for
that means
yourself.
you're getting 9 rejections. To me,
Yeah.
I'm like that's great. They're working. Out of every 10 castings, they book a job. To me, I'm happy as an agent. But for you, if you focus on the negative, you're like, I got rejected 9 times. It's not a rejection. You just weren't right for that job.
Right.
So
I always tell, and I know again, this is easy advice to give, but harder to take sometimes, but I always tell people just do the best you can always, and then forget about it. Because like you said, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to hear back anyways. Or 10,
you
90
should be
times out
you
of
should
a
be upset with
100.
yourself if you know that you didn't do the best. That's when you should be
Right.
upset. If you know that you did the best you could, you showed up, you looked good, you showed up, you did your thing, you were professional, you slept on time, et cetera, and you didn't book the job, it's fine. And here's the thing, if you show up to a casting, most of the time, the person that you're meeting, whether it's a designer, a casting director, a photographer, um, they're working on a lot of jobs throughout the
Right.
year. So they might not book you for this job, but they saw you at the casting, they liked you, they took a Polaroid of you, they took your comp card, whatever, and they like you, and they're putting you on their like kind of back burner list. And they might call me a week later, a month later, and book you for something. And you
Right.
are upset that you didn't book this one job, but you might have done a great job and impressed the client, and they're going to book you for something in 2 weeks or in a month.
Right.
So
And
do
and
the best.
they had you audition for a reason. You were picked out of the hundreds of the thousands that they saw to be at that audition. So be proud of the fact that you have an audition, and know that this is just the way the business is that you are going to hear no, and but just do the best you can. And don't only just do the best you can with the big names either, right?
Uh-huh.
That's like even do the best you can with the small names.
The small jobs to me are it's kind of like everybody needs to do them to get to where you want to get, and those small jobs help you build your confidence, help you get the experience. But those small jobs that you think are small or whatever, that person that's booking you tomorrow is going to change companies and now work. They might have booked you for some like Walmart catalog, and then that person that's booking models in a month now works for H&M, and 1 year later works at Victoria's Secret. And they
Right,
liked you back when they used you for Walmart, and now they're using you for Victoria's Secret.
right,
Or
absolutely.
they hated you when you did Walmart because you were awful to work with, and every other company they're gonna work with, they will remember you. It's insane. I will say people's memory is way better for the negative experiences than the positive ones.
It's true. Yeah,
You
it's
A
absolutely
bad
true.
experience is you will remember. When somebody's awful to work with, you will remember. And
No,
you
we can.
try everything possible to not have to work with them again.
Yeah. I mean, we've all had a bad experience with some sort of customer service interaction, and we all remember, right?
Yeah.
You, I'm never going back to that restaurant.
Yeah, of course you remember. You,
Yeah.
I mean, all of us as humans, we remember the negative stuff before the positive stuff.
Right. And also remember whenever you're on set or you're in, these opportunities, you're always being watched. And even though like the director themselves or the photographer themselves or the producer themselves is not sitting in front of you, you should act as if they are at all times, even if you're in the back and you're just grabbing a coffee, and you should always just be on your best behavior at all times when you're in production because you don't know who's watching you, and you are being watched, when you're there,
And
you know,
heard. And
and
there's
heard.
people that go in off in the corner and they're like, "Oh, I'm at this shoot and the clothing is awful," and somebody overhears you and is
Mhm.
gonna be quick to tell everybody else, and everybody's upset at you. So,
Right.
you know, do the
What?
opposite. Congratulate people for their job, and everybody's working. Like everybody's trying their best. So be nice to everybody. Be respectful. applaud people's job, tell the hair and makeup people, tell the stylist, like, it's such a pleasure to work with you. Thank you so much. All of that goes a long way.
Be polite, be nice, be early, show up when you're needed. Don't be hangry on set, right? If
Show up prepared. Show up prepared. If you know that you get, really thirsty, bring a bottle of water. Like, be prepared. Obviously,
Right.
most of the time when you show up, there's going to be water, but just in case, be prepared with certain things that if you get dry lips a lot, bring a chapstick. If you know that you get very hungry, bring a good power bar. So again,
Right.
it's studying yourself and knowing what you need to be able to do the best job you can do.
Right. And at the end of the day, they may be there's so much pressure and stress when they're putting on these productions. We're doing these shoots, they're doing events, and the teams are working hard, and they may be having one of the worst productions happening to them. Like maybe the electricity power generator went out, and then the craft service person car broke down, didn't show up, and showing up late. So they're dealing with a million things. And if you're just like, I'm just going to do an amazing job no matter what, you're standing in the rain and there's these awful sewer smells around you, or wherever you're in production, you have a good attitude and you do the best you can. That's essentially your job, right? And that's what's going to keep you booking and keep you working and keep people wanting to work with you, is have a great attitude, right?
100%. Totally.
I love it. Well, I appreciate your time. I loved having you on here today. What's a good way for people to reach out to you if they're interested in perhaps you taking a look at their portfolio, or they're interested in you working with them? Where can they do that?
They can reach out to me on Instagram. It's at Souza David. It's my name, but backwards. Souza David. Message me on Instagram, DM me if you have any questions. I'm happy to help. My email is david at Paragon Model Management. And that's my website as well, paragonmodelmanagement.com. Email is david at Paragon Model Management. Email me, message me on Instagram. Any questions you might have, I'm happy to help. Any advice, I'm happy to give.
Well, we have like 5 million people on here right now, so I hope you're prepared to answer some questions.
Oh God, 5 million emails. Let's do it. I'm ready.
David, I appreciate your time. Thank you for joining me.
Thank
Any
you,
big
Jeremy.
plans this weekend? You're having
It was
any
my
special
birthday
events?
2 days ago.
Oh, happy birthday.
Yeah, thank you. So I
Nice.
had a fun little party on Thursday, and just dinner with friends and chill.
Nice.
I'm sad that the summer's almost over. So
Yeah, right.
yeah,
Well, happy birthday. And obviously, those of you who are interested in working with David, make sure you wish him a happy birthday. That will get his attention
there
in
we
all his
go.
comments.
There you go. Please. Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you so much, and thank you to everybody. Any questions? Last piece of advice: ask questions.
Yes.
Ask people questions. The people that ask
All
the
right.
most questions and actually listen are the people that get far. So I'm telling you that the door is wide open. I will answer your questions. DM me if you have any.
All right. Well, it's great seeing you. Love having you on. Good to see everybody out there.
Likewise.
Enjoy your weekend, what's left of it, everybody out there, and we will see you on the next one. Bye, guys.